Hi, welcome again to Hell. This, of course, is Canto 11 of Hell, down between the sixth and the seventh circles of Hell. We're resuming here, and this is what you're going to be seeing in these next two cantos. Um, is Dante stepping back a little bit. He allows his narrator Virgil here to step back and to explain the structure of hell. Dante consistently does this. He'll do the same thing in the Purgatorio. That we don't get a fuller picture of, or we don't get any description of the structure of the place we're in until we're halfway through. And so now Virgil will explain these various circles. So we begin in the first line. We reached the curving brink of a steep bank constructed of enormous broken rocks. A little bit later in the canto, we'll discover why these rocks are broken. Below us was a crueler den of pain. It keeps getting crueler as we, not cruller, there's no crullers in hell, there's no donuts in hell. Um, uh, it's a crueler den of pain because the deeper we go, the worse the sins are, the more cruelty. And the reason for the change in cruelty, Dante, that they are getting more and more cruel, Dante explains that now we're reaching the circle of malitia, malice, line 22. And so Dante explains by referring to Aristotle. Aristotle in the Nicomachean Ethics, which we've already discussed, but also for Dante reading in Latin rather than Greek, although the Nicomachean Ethics had been translated into to Latin. Um, but Dante was familiar with Cicero's De Officiis, which was his kind of translation. It's his version of the ethical philosophy of Aristotle. And so malice has injustice as its end, line 22, an end achieved by violence or fraud. And so we've just come from the sins of incontinence, and they have only oneself, the sinner, as the object of the sin, whereas malice has another person as the object of the sin. All malice has injustice as its end, we're told. In the first of the circles below are all the violent. Okay. Cerchio, the primo cerchio, the first of the circles, but the cerchio uses a diminutive, so it's the little circles. These circles are getting smaller and smaller as we go down. That's the structure that we will see. On Friday, I'll bring in an illustration of this. The first of the circles below are all the violence. Since violence can be used against three persons in three concentric rounds, it is divided. Okay, so now he's explaining the structure. This next circle is divided into three rounds because there are three ways that one can be violent. Against God, against oneself, and against one's neighbor. I'm sorry for my itches here. Um, and so um, Dante asks about the circles that they've passed through, circles 2 through 5. Why are those sinners not in the city of Dis, this horrible city of hell? What of those in the slimy swamp, the wrathful that they had seen in the fifth circle? Those driven by the wind, remember the second circle, the whirlwind of the lovers in the second circle? Those beat by rain in the third circle, and those who came to blow with harsh refrains. What about the fourth circle? What about all those, asks Dante. Why are they too not punished here inside the city of flame if they have earned God's wrath? If they have not, why are they suffering? And he to me, this is Virgil's answer, why do you let your thoughts stray from the path they are accustomed to? Or have I missed the point you have in mind? Have you forgotten your ethics, how your ethics reads, Aristotle's Ethics? Those terms it explicates in such detail the three conditions that the heavens hate. incontinence, incontinentia, malitia, malice, and bestialis, bestiality. Do you not remember how incontinence offends God's least and merits the least blame? Now, least, that's a superlative term, but he's speaking comparatively. He's speaking on a spectrum. He isn't saying that this is inconsequential, but less than the sins uh, of malice and less than malice, because malice is directed toward somebody else. Um, Okay, so that takes us to Canto 12. They descend through a rock slide, and finally Virgil explains why there's a rock slide. Not only was that place, this is the first line, where we had come to descend craggy, but there was something there that made the scene appalling to the eye. And he begins another epic simile here with the word like in line 4. Um, and he refers to a famous landslide, a famous earthquake of Dante's time in Trent. Like the ruins this side of Trent left by the landslide, an earthquake or erosion must have caused it, that hit the Adige and its left bank. In a little while, Virgil is going to explain what that earthquake was, what caused it. So was the slope of our ravine's formation, and at the edge, along the shattered chasm, there lay stretched out the infamy of Crete. Okay, now Dante uses very circumlocution-like evasion. He talks around. The infamy of Crete is a vague phrase for the Minotaur. Okay, so disgusting he doesn't want to mention it. So monsters from classical mythology are going to appear here. Here the Minotaur, and in a little while we'll be seeing the centaurs as well. Virgil dries off the Minotaur and explains how this rock slide came to be. Now let me tell you that the other time, line 34, I came down to the lower part of hell. This rock had not then fallen into ruins, but certainly, if I remember well, it was just before the coming of that one who took from hell's first circle, the great spoil. Again, we're talking around something, but this time the infamy of Crete is a talking around a circumlocution because we don't want to talk about that disgusting creature. That's a euphemism then. That's the reason for the circumlocution there. But here, in not wanting to talk about Christ, it's not that he doesn't want to, it's just that he doesn't have the language for it. And here Dante shows that this is a great technique, and we're going to have a name for it in a few moments when it happens again. Dante presents Virgil as having been born, of course, before Christ, and having died, in fact, before Christ. And so, therefore, he doesn't have the language for the Savior, the one who took from hell's first circle the great spoil, the harrowing of hell, Christ's descent into the underworld, into hell, to free those souls that had, those virtuous souls, the patriarchs, who had, through no personal fault, not known Christ. And so once Christ is born and resurrected, then he harrows hell, so to speak, sends them up. And Virgil describes that shuddering of the earth that causes this earthquake in unusual terms. He says, line 40, that this abyss of stench from top to bottom began to shake, so I thought the universe felt love. It is love that causes this earthquake. Now, the motive force throughout all of Dante's worlds is going to be love, the love of God. This is a great love poem. Dante was famous in his early days for writing love poetry, although it was love of a different type. It was eros, it was romantic love, erotic love. And so he's the master of that kind of love poetry, but he still writes love poetry in his great epic, if we want to call this an epic, in his great comedy, because this is the poem of ultimate love. Hell is filled with people who cannot love in the right way, who love in the wrong degree, or their love is perverted in some way, or simply inefficient. Um, so it's here then that they see this river of blood cascading down, and the centaurs are romping over it, and uh, Virgil shouts out to no, actually, it's one of the centaurs that threatens Virgil and Dante because they're very territorial. So line 61, I think it's Nessus, says, "You there, on your way down here, what torture are you seeking? Speak where you stand. If not, I draw my bow." And then my master shouted back, "Our answer we will give to Chiron when we're at his side." Chiron is the wise old centaur who trained a number of the heroes. For as for you, I see you are as rash as ever. Oh, so yes, this marks Nessus, then the more unruly of the centaurs. He was responsible for the death of Heracles, in fact. Um, Chiron, this is the other example of that technique I was just talking about. Chiron notices something odd about Dante, and so now here we see this technique that Dante uses brilliantly, but he doesn't have a word for it. There's no word that I know of for this until the Russian formalist critics of the 20th century. Viktor Shklovsky, one of the Russian formalists, called this technique, he used the Russian word ostrenenyi, which means estrangement, making something strange, making something that is familiar seem as if it's strange. Okay, so this is used very much in science fiction, right? Because if you want to depict something from an alien point of view, you describe something that is familiar to us as if it's unfamiliar. Okay, and so Dante does that because, of course, none of us have ever been in hell. Now I've been in Vegas, but I've never been to the city of Dis. Um, so what one of the centaurs is shocked. Now let's reverse this. Let's see something from our point of view in our world. If you saw somebody walking across your lawn, and this person was walking across the lawn, across the grass, and not a single blade of grass bent as this person walked across it, you would be freaked out, right? Because that's so contrary to the physics of most of the people. Well, I don't know what kind of people you hang out with, but most of the people that I hang out with would bend the grass when they walk on it, and so that would strike us as unusual. Here, the opposite happens. Um, uh, if one of the spirits in hell comes up to a rock, he would pass through the rock the way that Casper does in Casper the Friendly Ghost. Um, but and so they're used to that. But this guy, Dante, they're looking at Dante and they're seeing him bump into a rock and the rock moves. That is so weird. Um, this is what he says in line 80. Have you noticed how the one behind moves everything he touches? I've never seen that in hell before. This is not what dead men's feet would do. And my good guide, now standing by the torso at the point the beast's two natures joined. Okay, what two natures? Well, centaurs, of course, are half horse, half man. So that is right at the waist, right at the navel, where the human part joins with the horse part. He is indeed alive, and so alone that I must show him through this dismal valley. He travels by necessity, not pleasure. So give him a break. Um, Virgil asks Chiron for a centaur to guide them, and so Chiron appoints Nessus. And Nessus explains that this river of blood that they've seen is all the blood from tyrants. Line 104, he says, "These are the tyrants who dealt in bloodshed and plundered wealth. Their tears are paying for their heartless crimes. Here stands Alexander and fierce Dionysius." So he starts naming all of the great tyrants of the past. Azzolino, a pizzo d'esti, and so he names them all. Even an English one. There stands the one who, in God's keep, murdered the heart still dripping blood above the Thames. Richard III, all of his horrible murders. Um, okay, and so that brings us, alas, to the end of Canto 12. Alas, not because I'm sad that we're done with Canto 12. I want to get out of hell as soon as possible. Um, but alas, because it's the end of our journey together, and I'll miss you until we meet again on Friday. So I suppose in the meantime I should give my benediction then. So God bless you, and we'll see you on Friday.